New corruption within Xi's family exposed. Xi Jinping's two key allies unusually team up. Yuan Hongbing, Qin Gang gains merit through crime, reports Li Shangfu via Peng Liyuan. Super Typhoon Gaemi, over 10 provinces in China will be affected. Bangladesh sees worst protests in decades, at least 174 dead, thousands injured, impact felt in China. Coach demands over 200,000 yuan in prize money, former Heilongjiang boxer reports corruption. Former CCP Religious Affairs Director Cui Maohu sentenced to 11 years for corruption and persecution of Falun Gong. Chinese companies sell weapon parts to Belarus to support Russian military. It's all covered in today's China Truths. New corruption within Xi's family exposed. Xi Jinping's two key allies unusually team up. After the third plenary session, observers have noted more signs that Xi Jinping's position is not secure, and the corruption within Xi's family has once again been exposed and discussed. On July 23, Xinhua News Agency reported that the Standing Committee of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, held a meeting to convey and implement the spirit of the 20th Central Committee's third plenary session. Notably, this CPPCC Standing Committee meeting was presided over by CPPCC Chairman Wang Huning, and Central Secretariat Secretary Kai Chi was invited to attend the opening ceremony and deliver a report. China News commentator Jiang Sench remarked that this is a very unusual situation, because the CPPCC is a relatively independent system and has little to do with the Central Secretariat led by Kai Chi. In theory, there is no need to invite Kai Chi to make a report at the CPPCC meeting. Moreover, both Wang Huning and Kai Chi are core members of Xi's faction. The drafting committee for the documents of the 20th Central Committee's third plenary session was composed of Wang Huning, Kai Chi, and Ding Xuexiang. This shows that Wang Huning and Kai Chi are among Xi's most trusted people. Generally, these two would compete secretly, and their relationship would not be very good. However, now Wang Huning has invited Kai Chi to the CPPCC to make a report, indicating that they are abandoning competition and teaming up. This suggests that there are significant problems within the Central Committee, forcing Wang Huning and Kai Chi to join forces to cope. Commentator Jiang Sench stated that the specific problems within the CCP leadership are still unknown to the outside world, but analyzing from the overall situation, it is possible that the internal opposition to Xi Jinping is growing stronger, and Wang Huning and Kai Chi are facing powerful enemies, leaving them no choice but to join forces. Recently, the New York Times published two reports exposing the secret dealings between the two major white gloves of the CCP's princelings, Xiao Jianhua and Jack Ma. In fact, the most captivating part of the articles was the revelation that Xi Jinping's family was also connected to these two white gloves. The New York Times reported that Xi Jinping's sister, Qi Qiaoqiao, once collaborated with a state-owned bank to establish a Beijing investment company. In 2014, Qi Qiaoqiao sold 50% of this Beijing investment company's shares to Xiao Jianhua. The report also mentioned that Xiao Jianhua's expertise lies in helping officials and their relatives transfer assets overseas and conduct transactions. At least one of these transactions was carried out for one of Xi Jinping's sisters. The New York Times investigation found that Xiao Jianhua had secretly invested in Jack Ma's company for a long time. A 24-year-old woman, Zhao Binbin, invested $25 million in Alibaba, but in fact, Zhao Binbin was holding the assets for Xiao Jianhua. A relative of Zhao Binbin is a senior executive at one of Xiao Jianhua's companies, which acquired assets from Xi Jinping's sister. The New York Times report seems to link Xi Jinping's family, Xiao Jianhua, and Jack Ma, leading outsiders to speculate that Jack Ma, through Xiao Jianhua, also transferred benefits to Xi's family. The collusion between the CCP's red families and white gloves to amass wealth has long been well known. However, similar news is often exposed during sensitive periods and used in the CCP's power struggles. At the recent third plenary session, Xinhua News Agency's lengthy article praising Xi Jinping was withdrawn, the number of times Xi Jinping's name was mentioned in the communiqué was reduced, and there was no mention of the Politburo implementing Xi's thoughts. This has led observers to analyze that Xi Jinping's authority is being challenged, and some changes might be occurring within the CCP. In this context, the foreign media's exposure of the complex connections between Xi's family and the White Gloves, as well as the sudden cooperation between Xi's two major allies, Wang Huning and Kai Chi, may all reflect changes within the CCP. Yuan Hongbing, Qin Gang gains merit through crime, reports Li Shangfu via Peng Liyuan. Information from the CCP's third plenary session indicates that former Foreign Minister Qin Gang might have experienced a soft landing. Australian-based legal scholar Yuan Hongbing revealed that Qin Gang was reported by Wang Yi for his private life and handed over recordings of senior military officials to Peng Liyuan for self-protection. On July 22, Mr. Yuan Hongbing told Vision Times that Xi Jinping initiated a major purge within the military, driven by three key incidents. First, the Secretary of Rocket Force Commander Liyuan reported to higher authorities that the Rocket Force's senior leadership was disloyal to Xi. Second, after the former commander of the Strategic Support Force, Zhu Gansheng, was arrested, he exposed a large number of senior technical officers dissatisfied with Xi. The third and most critical whistleblower, according to Mr. Yuan, was Qin Gang. Mr. Yuan stated that his inside information indicated that, while Qin Gang was serving as deputy foreign minister, he established personal relationships with then-director of the Equipment Development Department Li Shangfu, and then Minister of Defense Wei Fenghe. Qin secretly recorded private conversations between Li and Wei using foreign ministry equipment. Later, when Qin Gang learned that Wang Yi had compiled a case against him for having an illegitimate child with Fu Xiaotian, he immediately handed these private recordings over to Peng Liyuan. In his report, Qin Gang also stated that, entrusting significant military power to two-faced individuals like Wei Fenghe and Li Shangfu was extremely dangerous and terrifying. Mr. Yuan Hongbing said that, Qin Gang's report triggered fear and rage in Xi Jinping, leading to a major military purge. Consequently, Qin Gang gained merit through crime. Mr. Yuan heard that this large-scale purge caused widespread fear among CCP officials, with many high-ranking officials now learning the lesson and avoiding speaking during private conversations, opting instead to write on paper. This extremely abnormal situation within the CCP's top ranks indicates that Xi Jinping himself is in a perilous position. Since the third plenary session, rumors about Xi Jinping having a stroke or being under house arrest by the military have surfaced online. Analysts suggest that although these rumors lack credibility, they reflect the ongoing maneuvers of anti-Xi forces within the CCP. During the third plenary session, the authorities announced the acceptance of Qin Gang's resignation request, removing him from his position as a Central Committee member, but still referring to him as comrade. Subsequently, the authorities announced that Qin Gang resigned from his position as a National People's Congress representative for personal reasons. Analysts speculate that Qin Gang might have had a safe landing. There are various rumors about the reasons behind Qin Gang's sudden downfall. Some say it was because Wang Yi reported to Xi Jinping about Qin Gang and Fu Xiaotian secretly having a child in the United States. Others suggest he was implicated in the Rocket Force corruption case. Still, others claim he was suspected of acting as a spy for the United States. Super Typhoon Gaemi, over 10 provinces in China will be affected. On the morning of July 24, Typhoon Gaemi was upgraded from a severe typhoon to a super typhoon. It is expected to make landfall along the central and northern coast of Fujian on July 25, bringing heavy rains to over 10 provinces. Typhoon Gaemi is moving northwest at 10 to 15 km per hour and will first hit Taiwan's coast before making landfall in Fujian. The storm's maximum wind speed could reach 209 km per hour. The typhoon will bring strong winds and heavy rain to southeastern China and move inland, potentially causing extreme rainfall in northern and northeastern regions. The main periods of impact are as follows: Fujian and Zhejiang from the 25th to the 26th, Jiangxi and Anhui from the 26th to the 27th, Hunan and Shandong on the 27th, Hebei, Beijing, and Tianjin from the 27th to the 28th, Liaoning and Jilin from the 28th to the 29th. Heavy rainfall will likely cause significant flooding in several rivers, and coastal areas may see high tides. Emergency responses have been activated in Zhejiang and Fujian, and temporary measures like work suspensions, school closures, and train service interruptions have been implemented. The Fujian Maritime Safety Administration has also suspended numerous passenger ferry routes and offshore construction projects. Eastern Guangdong railway lines will also experience disruptions. Bangladesh sees worst protests in decades, at least 174 dead, thousands injured, impact felt in China. Bangladesh, like China, considers government jobs prestigious and highly competitive. Amid high unemployment, the Bangladeshi government's decision to reserve 56% of these jobs for military descendants sparked massive protests, resonating even with Chinese netizens thousands of miles away. The student protests in Bangladesh have escalated over 2 weeks, resulting in at least 174 deaths and thousands of injuries, with 2,580 arrests. This is the second major protest against the government job quota system, following a similar uprising in 2018 that led to the system's temporary abolition. In June, the Bangladesh Supreme Court reinstated the quota for freedom fighters' descendants, leading to renewed protests. On July 21, under pressure, the court reduced the reserve jobs to 7%, with 5% for freedom fighters and 2% for minorities and disabled individuals, but did not fully abolish the system. Protesters demanded the complete removal of quotas, release of detained protesters, lifting of curfews, and reopening of universities. The protests have gone beyond the quota issue, now targeting Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her government. Demonstrations have inspired Bangladeshis abroad and Chinese netizens, who are sharing and commenting on the events, reflecting on their own situations. Chinese netizens have expressed admiration for the Bangladeshi protesters and criticized their own passivity. Comments highlight the belief that rights must be fought for, not granted, and draw parallels to historical and current events in China. Comments on these videos include statements like, "Rights are won with blood and life, not given by others." Some netizens left self-reflective comments, such as, "I am a coward, I eat toxic food oil and do nothing about it, and they did what we don't dare to do." Others posted, "Rights are never given but fought for through unity." Unlike some countries that violently suppress student protests and threaten university professors, indeed, that incident, referring to Tiananmen Square on June 4, 1989, was extremely brutal, even using tanks, but only those over 50 and those who have attended university know about it. The military does not want to be historical criminals. The protests in Bangladesh have evidently inspired the Chinese people and also caused fear among the CCP authorities. Reports indicate that the CCP has already issued a gag order to the media, prohibiting the reporting of the protests in Bangladesh to promptly cut off anything that is beneficial to harmony and stability. Coach demands over 200,000 yuan in prize money, former Heilongjiang boxer reports corruption. Under the CCP's authoritarian regime, corruption is rampant in various fields, including sports. A former boxing champion from Heilongjiang has publicly accused his former coach of demanding nearly 300,000 yuan, about $42,000, in prize money, drawing significant attention. On July 24, former Heilongjiang boxing champion Peng posted a video online, identifying himself and accusing his former coach, Liyuan, by name. In the video, Mao holds his ID card and states that he was a professional boxer with the Heilongjiang Sports Bureau and a champion of the 13th National Games. He describes facing unfair treatment and not knowing how to defend his rights, leading him to publicly report the coach from the Heilongjiang Sports Bureau's Competitive Sports Management Center. He claims that Liyuan, between 2015 and 2021, repeatedly used his position to demand a cut of the prize money from multiple athletes, including himself, amounting to over 200,000 yuan, about $28,000. Additionally, Li allegedly solicited bribes of around 80,000 yuan, about $11,000, from athletes through other means. In the video, Mao states that Liyuan is currently employed at the Shanghai University of Sports Competitive Sports School and expresses his willingness to take legal responsibility for every word he says. He mentions having evidence and urges relevant departments to contact him for a thorough investigation. In a follow-up video, Mao presents 2 pieces of evidence, with plans to release more later. The evidence includes a bank transfer record showing a payment of 16,000 yuan to Liyuan. Mao questions the basis for a coach demanding and controlling athletes' prize money. Netizens have commented, saying, "This kind of thing is everywhere in China. Those without protection are immediately taken down. Those with protection lay low for a while and then continue as usual." Former CCP Religious Affairs Director Cui Maohu sentenced to 11 years for corruption and persecution of Falun Gong. On July 23, former Deputy Minister of the United Front Work Department and Director of the State Administration for Religious Affairs, Cui Maohu, was sentenced to 11 years in prison after being convicted of bribery. According to Minghui.org, Cui actively participated in the persecution of Falun Gong and was investigated by international organizations. Reports state that from 2007 to 2023, Cui Maohu used his position to illegally accept bribes totaling 10.43 million yuan, about $1.44 million. Due to his confession and repentance, the court imposed a lighter sentence. The Shenyang Intermediate People's Court in Liaoning Province sentenced Cui to 11 years in prison for bribery and fined him 1.5 million yuan, about $210,000. According to his public resume, 59-year-old Cui Maohu held various positions in Yunnan Province for many years. In 2022, he was appointed Deputy Minister of the United Front Work Department and Director of the State Administration for Religious Affairs, before being investigated in March of the previous year. Minghui.org reported that Cui Maohu actively participated in the persecution of Falun Gong. In April 2010, he jointly organized a so-called commendation conference for those who had notably persecuted Falun Gong practitioners. In addition, when Cui Maohu was secretary of the Lijiang Municipal Party Committee, he was responsible for the kidnapping and sentencing of 4 Falun Gong practitioners, Wen De, Song Nanyu, Liao Jianfu, and Zhou Fuming. Among them, Liao Jianfu was detained in Yunnan Province No. 1 prison and was tortured to death. The CCP's State Administration for Religious Affairs, where Cui Maohu served, has been accused of participating in the persecution of Falun Gong. The World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong has been investigating the State Administration for Religious Affairs and its former directors, Yi Xiaowen and Wang Zuoan. Chinese companies sell weapon parts to Belarus to support Russian military. The CCP has consistently denied providing military aid to Russia, but Western nations believe that China supplies weapon parts to the Russian military through the export of high-tech components. Recently, records have shown that Chinese companies knowingly sold weapon parts used by the Russian military to Belarusian defense contractor Belomo, which is under sanctions. On Wednesday, July 24, Nikkei Asia reported that the Belarusian opposition group Belpol obtained contracts, payment records, and other information from multiple industry sources regarding transactions between Belarusian and Chinese companies. According to the report, after the Belarusian defense contractor Belomo, Belarusian Optical and Mechanical Association, was sanctioned by the US and Europe in 2022, Chinese companies continued to provide precision parts used in Russian weapons to Belomo. These records show that on December 1 last year, Shenzhen-based Green Cycle Energy received an order for 3,000 LAD-21T laser module components from the Belarusian defense company Belomo. These advanced modules are used in targeting laser-guided bombs and missiles, with payment made in yuan. The Shanghai branch of the Russian state-owned VTB Bank was involved in the transaction. On December 5 last year, the U.S. Treasury Department imposed sanctions on Belomo for providing weapons to the Russian military. However, on February 16 this year, Green Cycle Energy signed a contract worth 5.56 million yuan, about $764,000, with Belomo to sell these components. Another Chinese parts manufacturer, Morotac, Tianjin Technology, provided 200 parts called flanges to Belomo's Diaproector factory on February 1, totaling 114,000 yuan, about $15,700. both Belarusian and Chinese banks were involved in this transaction. These components are considered critical parts of advanced guidance systems. In a letter dated May 2, Bellomo requested that Morotac send 100 related parts monthly. Additionally, on February 2, Precision Laser Systems, based in St. Petersburg, provided laser-related components to Diaproector. These components included laser diodes produced by Hawkor, Shandong Huaguang Optoelectronics Company, Limited, in Jinan. This shipment contained 78 units, sold for $499,200. Precision Laser Systems delivered similar-sized shipments to Diaproector on February 20 and March 20. Meanwhile, Diaproector sold components to Belarusian defense contractor Peng, which supplies Sosnayu multi-channel thermal imaging sighting systems for tank gunners to the Russian military. Peng is also a company sanctioned by the US and the UK. On July 10, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken accused the CCP of being a key contributor to Russia's defense industrial base. In June, the G7 summit joint communiqué stated that measures would continue to be taken against Chinese, CCP, and third country actors who materially support Russia's war machine. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.